and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the latest in my series of videos about how to pass an advanced bike test. And in this video we're going to look at overtaking. Now, to start with, I should point out I've done a more comprehensive video about overtaking on the bike, made it a couple of years ago on the old XR, and that looks at every aspect in a great deal of detail, so please make sure you have a look at that video as well. It's more of an instructional video on how to overtake. This video is about what's required for an advanced bike test, and I'm going to let you into a bit of, well, it's not a secret, and it shouldn't be a secret this, but that is that if you're doing one of the civilian advanced bike tests, IM or ROSPA, you do not have to get an overtaking on test at all. If it's not on, don't go looking for it, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on when we look at what the different organisations are expecting. Let's start by taking a look at the two different kinds of overtakes that you'll be performing on the road. The first is one that doesn't come off very often. I don't know, 1 in 20, 1 in 50 overtake, something like that. And that's what I refer to as a rolling overtake, or some other people call it a momentum overtake. And that's where you roll off a corner onto a nice long open straight or open view, and you can see there's a slow moving vehicle up ahead, and you can see you're catching them. And all you've got to do is move your position to the offside and roll past them. It's the sort of overtake, I suppose, that you do on the motorway all the time, but on a single carriageway A road, occasionally those overtakes happen, and they're nice. A bit like on these cyclists here. You know, the only adjustment I'm making is to my position. Speed and gear are okay, and it doesn't require any additional acceleration over and above what I was going to do. So I suppose we could use those cyclists as an example of that. Now, the chances of you getting a nice rolling overtake on test are pretty slim. I've seen 1 or 2 in all the time I've been testing for IM Road Smart, but when they come off, they're really nice, and if you do manage to get one, your examiner will be made up with that. So there's a rolling overtake on the quad bike. Perfect. Came off that corner, didn't require any additional acceleration over and above what I was giving the bike anyway, and it came off really nicely. So the other type of overtake, and by far the most common overtake that you'll be performing on the road and on your test, if the opportunity presents itself, is an overtake from the following position. Some people use the term catch, match and dispatch, meaning that we catch up with the vehicle in front, we match their speed for a period of time until the opportunity presents itself, and then we dispatch them with a nicely executed overtake. So let's have a look at those 3 elements. Catch first. Well, on your test, what I want you to be doing is riding progressively up to the speed limit. And the thing about bikes is that they accelerate pretty quickly. So what you'll find is that you're catching up with stuff quite a lot. On a police advanced, or even on a police standard bike test, you're going to be going much quicker and above the speed limit. So you're going to be catching up with a lot of stuff. It's important that you learn these overtaking skills. But here we are, we're catching up with these vehicles in front. And the next thing I'm going to do is match the speed. So I'm going to roll into a following position. And this is where you need to practice your following position. Because I can learn just as much from watching you follow a vehicle in front as I can, here we are, straight into a rolling overtake, as I can from watching you do the overtake itself. Picked the wrong road for this. Well, let's use that Land Rover up ahead as an example. You can see I'm catching up with it, and I'm looking in front of that Land Rover. I can see up ahead there is a hairpin right. Many of you will have ridden this road before, the Hartside Pass, so you know there's a hairpin right coming up, and also a series of 3 other vehicles up there. So I'm going to catch up and get in a following position as we go around this right-hander. And then I'm looking past the Land Rover all the way up the hill to see if there's an opportunity to overtake. And I got a view then, but then I lost it. So now I'm in the following position. I'm moving to the near side to get the view. Then I'm moving offside into the overtake, and it's just nicely executed before the oncoming vehicle. So that is an example of a catch, match and dispatch overtake, or an overtake from the following position. When you're in that following position, that's where your examiner can learn a lot about you, by where you position the bike. So on the way into a right-hander like this, you'll be positioned in the near side, because that gives you an earlier view down the road, and that earlier view allows you to see when the overtake is on. Likewise, if you're going into a left-hand bend, you're positioned towards the centre line, because that extends your near side view. So we want to see you when you're in that following position. Generally, on most roads that you're going to be on, you're going to be in it longer than I've been in it today, on this lovely road with a great big open view. I don't go when they put a signal on. There's a good example. People pull over and they want to get you past in the most stupid places. I'll overtake after this bend. He's pulling in on approach to a blind left-hander. If you're a car driver watching this, don't pull over for me for an overtake. I don't need you to. I have plenty of performance. I can get past you quite easily without your help. The only assistance I want from you as a car driver is to leave me a landing space. Just leave me somewhere in front. If you're in a line of traffic, just extend that gap a little bit in front. So in straightforward terms, that's what we're looking for from overtakes. Let me give you a few other tips as well. I've shown you the techniques. Things you need to think about when you're overtaking are very important. There's 1,000 reasons not to overtake. Starting with junctions or entrances on the offside. The risk with a junction or entrance on the offside is A, the vehicle that you're overtaking might want to turn right into it, and B, something might come out of that junction and come towards you, because people never look left before they go left. Now, a junction or entrance to the right isn't an automatic bar to an overtake, or a lay-by for example. They're not automatic bars to an overtake. The risk isn't the junction or the lay-by. The risk is that something pulls in or pulls out of it. So if you can satisfy yourself 100% that that's not going to happen, then you can still overtake with a junction to the right, but you've got to have a really good view into it. You've got to be certain that you can be past the vehicle in front before it gets anywhere near that junction, or you wait till it's past it. Double white line systems is an interesting one. You ask people what double white lines mean. When the solid line is closest to you, they will say no overtaking, and that is not true. If you can overtake within the confines of a double white line system, you're allowed to. You're just not allowed to cross the line. That's the difference. Hatch markings. Can you overtake on hatch markings? Well, yeah, you can if they're bordered with a broken white line, and it's necessary to do so. You've got to justify that necessity yourself. For me, it's necessary to do it to overtake a slow moving vehicle in front. Well, that's okay. You've justified it. You can't use those hatch markings if they're bordered with a solid white line, because the same rules as double white lines like this one here apply. Pedestrian crossings, you know, when you're in 30 limits and you're filtering and things like that, you're not allowed to pass the vehicle at the front of a queue of traffic at a pedestrian crossing. Remember that. A load of people falling foul of that on advanced test, just forgetting that rule. But you've got to think about what reaction you're going to get from the car in front. Are they going to try and drag race you in the overtake, or are they going to just keep the speed that they're at? What about the gap in oncoming traffic? Is there sufficient room for you to get out, completely overtake and get back into the near side before coming into conflict with oncoming traffic? What about a landing space? This is really important. You're going on an overtake, you need somewhere to land. That's the space in front of the vehicle that you're overtaking. So there's all these things going on in your mind while you're overtaking, loads and loads of stuff. Doesn't mean you have to think about it forever and a day. The most important thing in overtaking is getting a good following position and maintaining it. This is the secret. For those of you on police courses, it's very common to see people catching up, getting in a following position. Look for the van coming out from the left here. There he is. Yeah, see people coming up into a following position, keeping a nice tight following position for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then just thinking, oh, there's no chance to get an overtake here, and they drop back to 4 or 5 seconds. And then, after a couple more minutes, the road opens up, the view opens up, the overtake presents itself to them. But of course they're 4 or 5 seconds back, so they waste most of that opportunity catching up with the vehicle in front before they get the overtake. You can practice being in a good tight following position at all times. Good 2-second gap if it's appropriate, maybe a bit longer under different weather conditions or different vehicle sizes. But if you can practice that and remember to keep it tight at all times during your test, you won't miss an opportunity when it presents itself. And here's the next secret for overtaking on advanced bike tests, any advanced bike test, including the police ones. I really want you to go for the really obvious overtakes. You don't have to go looking. You don't have to work too hard to look for them. You don't have to go pushing other people, forcing overtakes, forcing landing spaces, all that kind of stuff. Don't make it so that anybody else has to compensate for your overtake. The overtakes I want to see on test are the really obvious ones. The ones where you come up behind it, there's a lovely gap in front, lovely gap in oncoming traffic. You have a bit of spare capacity on the speed within the speed limit if it's a civilian test, and the overtake is blindingly obvious. It's a gimme. It's wrapped up with a bow on top saying take me. Now the difference with police courses is that because your speeds are higher, because you're travelling at a higher rate of knots in those national speed limit roads, those gimmies are more frequent because you've got more plus speed to play with. So by having more plus speed to play with, more overtakes will present themselves to you, but it's only the ones that are obviously on. If you're on test and you do an overtake, look behind and see if your examiner's followed you. If they followed you into the overtake, it was definitely on, because if it was on for them, it was definitely on for you. If they don't follow you into the overtake, don't worry too much. It doesn't mean necessarily that it wasn't on for you. We'll tell you at the start of the test, ride your own ride, go for yourself, don't worry about us. So what are the different organisations looking for? Well, if you're doing an IAM Road Smart test or a ROSPA test and you want a pass at IAM, you want a bronze or a silver at ROSPA, well, the first thing I'm looking for is for you to catch up with vehicles in front and sit in a good following position. You will overtake some cyclists and slow moving vehicles like that during your test, so I'm looking at how you conduct those overtakes. But predominantly I'm looking for how you catch up with the vehicle in front and whether you're positioning for the view, whether you look like you're maintaining a good following position, because from there, if there's an overtake on, it will develop out of that. But like I said at the beginning of this video, you do not have to get an overtake to pass an advanced bike test. You can only get them if they present themselves, and they'll only present themselves if you do all the right things in preparation. Overtaking is 99.9% in the preparation and the planning. It's looking ahead, it's thinking where those opportunities will be. If you're behind a vehicle in a following position in a national speed limit road and up ahead is a right hand bend, always think to yourself, there might be an opportunity after that bend, because good opportunities present themselves after right hand bends. You might even get into the overtake before the bend finishes, so you position yourself correctly. So if you do all that stuff and it's reasonably consistent and your following position isn't too elastic, then you're looking at a bronze or a silver at ROSPA, you're looking at a pass at IAM. If you're looking for a first at IAM Road Smart or a gold at ROSPA, well, it's all about how you catch up and how you hold that following position more consistently and move around looking for the view. You do all that, again, the obvious overtakes will present themselves. Those are the ones we want you to take, just the really obvious gimmies, if you want to call them that. And if you get one or two of those on advanced bike test, you're definitely going to be looking at a first. Let's just talk about the execution of the overtake. When you execute the overtake on those tests, there's nothing wrong with closing up a little bit. The roadcraft talks about the overtaking position, so closing up a little bit when you think an opportunity is about to present itself. So like I said before, coming up to a right hand bend, close up a little bit, there might be an overtake on here after this bend. If it isn't on, drop back to 2 seconds again. Be consistent with that following position. Don't stay in any kind of overtaking position, because you're encroaching and you're eating into the other benefits that following position will give you. And what I'm not looking for in the execution of the overtake is a banana overtake. So these stationary vehicles, I'll give you a demonstration. People overtake like this. They go out, they swoop out, and they do the overtake and they swoop back in again. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a nice square overtake where you're riding along, you see your opportunity, you move to the offside and then you accelerate. So that final move offside is your final confirmation that the overtake is on. At that point, it's on, you're on the gas, and then I want your thought process on the next thing. As soon as you've moved out and started that overtake, the overtake in my mind is done. It's finished. We've done it. What I want you to do is mentally move on to the next thing, because the problem is that some people then arrive too fast at the next corner because they've used too much gas in the overtake. So control the bike, control the speed carefully. But if you can get all that right consistently, and hopefully if you can get one or two overtakes in on test, then you are definitely looking at scoring ones on IM rather than twos. Remember, 2 means you've reached the required standard, 1 means you've exceeded the required standard. And if you're getting ones, you're on your way to getting a first or a gold at Rosper. In the police, well, different thing in the police really. One of the key things you're going to learn on a police standard bike course, but definitely on an advanced bike course, is how to overtake. And you're going to be taught, to ride the bike quickly in excess of those speed limits, which means that there are many more overtaking opportunities to be found when you've got that exemption. And the test route that your examiners take you on will give you plenty of opportunities to overtake. So in the police, we're looking for much more consistency with the following position, using that exemption to catch up with vehicles in front smartly, match the speed and move around looking for the opportunity, and when it presents, offside, roll on the gas and get on with your day. Be guided by your instructors. Again, if they're coming with you on the overtakes, definitely on for you. So when you get towards the end of the course where they're leaving it up to you to make the decisions, you're not riding under instruction, you judge what you're doing by what they're doing as well. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to cover overtaking because especially this idea on civilian advanced bike courses that you've got to get an overtaking. You haven't. You don't have to get an overtaking. I can learn everything I need to learn by watching you follow other vehicles. Just go for the really obvious ones. So thanks for watching. We're getting towards the end of this series of videos now. Hope you've enjoyed it, got something out of it. Maybe it's motivated you to go and do an advanced bike course. Better and safer you're going to be, the more you're going to enjoy your motorcycling. So I've got to have a look at the website, ragelocal.com. There's loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding. Information about the books that I've written, which you can get on Amazon, and about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me if you fancy a day out or a half day out on these roads under instruction. Come on, you'd enjoy that, wouldn't you? Drop me a line. And I've got a really good video coming up to finish this series off. Got permission to film an actual IAM test, and I think you'll enjoy that. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. You get an email every time I upload a new video. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Don't forget as well, when you're planning an overtake, it's really important to be watching what's happening behind. Yes, you'll have me or another examiner behind you watching what you're doing, but there's nothing worse than somebody who moves into an overtake when they're already being overtaken. That'll really put yourself at significant risk of harm. So keep an eye on your mirrors and always do a right shoulder check just before you move out into the overtake.